Good day, everyone. Eric Olsen from Helps. Welcome to our channel, wherever you are. I'm glad to be here with you. I'm going to be talking about different things. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat feature. My name's Eric Olsen. I'm an attorney now for 46 years, the founder of Helps. Our most important message to seniors and anyone of any age that receiving protected income, like Social Security, pension, disability, VA benefits. I want you to know that that income is protected by federal and state laws. It can't be taken from you. It's available for your needs, for your food and your medicine. Trust you can hear me okay. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat feature and I'll address them there. Glad to have you here. Um, the message today is seniors served with legal papers. And I'll tell you where that started from. And we'll talk about that for a couple minutes. Here we go. Person contacted us from Arkansas and they say, I'm hoping you can help me. I was served court papers today and I am unfamiliar with all the legal terms. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Sometimes when people get sued, the court papers are written as though they're communicating with attorneys and they have all these fancy words that maybe people aren't familiar with. We'll talk about those for a second, a little coming up here. But it says, I'm 71 years old and I'm a widow and we live on Social Security and a little retirement. Thanks in advance for your help or additional information. Okay. So if you've been listening to our YouTube channel for a while, you understand what I'm going to say. First off, your Social Security is protected, so is your pension. Even if someone were to sue you, file a lawsuit. What's a lawsuit? That's where if you owe someone money and the person you owe money to, they can file some papers with the court, usually in the county where you live, saying that you owe a certain amount of money. And a lot of times that lawsuit will come in two parts. One will be what's called a summons, which details the court and it gives you a certain number of days to answer if you're going to fight the lawsuit, if you're going to contest it. Okay. And then the second part of the lawsuit is a complaint, which details to whom you owe money and how much you owe it, and how much you owe and why you owe it, and how much they're asking for. Okay. And normally, if you're served with a lawsuit, someone has to give those papers to you. And how do they do that? Normally, someone would knock on your door and hand you the paperwork. It might be a sheriff's deputy. Now, when that means a sheriff's deputy, it's not the kind of sheriff's deputy that arrests people. It's a civil deputy. Most counties in the United States have a deputy assigned to serve legal papers. He does all kinds of things. He may even never even wear a gun. Okay, but he may have a badge somewhere. But that's what he does. It serves legal papers. He's not there to arrest you or anything like that. He's just to serve legal papers. It could be a private party. A lot of states allow private parties to also serve legal papers. In fact, probably all states do as well. So you get served papers, and the papers might say a date and a time for you to appear in court. But if you read that carefully, that's only if you're going to contest or fight the lawsuit. If you owe the money, you may not need to contest or fight it. Why don't you need to contest or fight it? Well, if you're a senior on Social Security or pension, or you get other forms of retirement, a 401k, an IRA, the list goes on, disability income, a VA benefit, all those forms of money are protected by federal law, and then some state laws protect that money as well. So it can't be taken from you. See, if you're served with a lawsuit, eventually the goal is for them to get what's called a judgment against you. And sometimes creditors will use that word to scare you, saying, if you don't pay this debt, we're going to get a judgment. Okay. But you don't need to be scared if you're a senior on Social Security or pension or receive other forms of retirement income. You don't need to be scared because your income is protected. Okay. And even if they get a judgment, they can't collect from you. You're what's called judgment proof, which means they can't take anything from you. They can't take your money. On top of that, in 2012, a law was passed. Actually, it was a rule that was passed, and I've talked about this before, that instructs banks that they're to automatically protect twice the amount of federal benefits you get deposited in your bank account from garnishment. regardless of what funds are in there, where they came from. And so what's garnishment? Well, if someone sues you and gets a judgment, then they can file some papers with with the with your bank, serve papers with your bank to or your employer in certain situations, to take money from your income or from your bank account. However, this law passed in 2012, instructs banks that they're to automatically protect the bank account to which federal benefits go, in like Social Security. If you got like 1,600 in Social Security, they automatically protect twice the amount of whatever federal benefit you get from garnishment, regardless of what other funds are in there or where they came from. So if you got 1,600 in Social Security, that times two is what? $3,200 is automatically protected from garnishment, even if you had money in there that came from some other source. What happens is that the rule tells the banks if they get a writ of garnishment, they're to examine every writ of garnishment. They're to examine where the money came from that went into your bank account. And if it came from a federal source, and they can determine that, because when money gets deposited, there's a code, and the code would tell me this came from Social Security, this came from VA, this is a federal source, it came from a federal pension. The post office is a federal pension. So if it came from a federal source, they know to take the amount you get each month times two and protect that automatically. On top of that, let's say, for example, you had more than that in there for whatever reason. Just because you had more than that in there doesn't mean that it's not protected. It's still protected, just not automatically. To get the excess release, you'd have to file some paperwork, which is not difficult. We help people do that. Our clients do or claim of exemption that explains to a judge that, hey, the excess money in this account was from Social Security. They happen to have a little bit more in there. And the judge will order that to be released. So with papers, you don't necessarily need to be scared, okay? And you can always talk to Helps, and we'll go over it with you. What Helps does, our main mission is to protect seniors from debt collector harassment. There was a law passed in 1978 called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. That's the year I graduated from law school. And that law says that it says a lot of things. It tells debt collectors what they cannot do, or what they can and cannot do, mostly what they can't do. And one of the things the law provides is that if a debtor, a person who owes money, is represented by an attorney, then the debt collector can no longer call that person or send them demand letters anymore. They have to deal with the attorney, not you. And that's what Helps does. We represent seniors and disabled persons. Doesn't matter your age, as long as you're getting Social Security or some type of pension, okay, or retirement or disability, doesn't matter your age. We represent them under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act as your attorney to receive debt collector communication. Our clients call us on the phone. Prospective clients call us on the phone. We interview them. We talk to them about their situation. It doesn't take long. We save the information. They may call us 2, 3, or 4 or 5 times, and then they decide, I want Helps to help me, protect me, so I don't have to deal with this myself. Then they enroll in Helps, and we enroll persons over the phone. It's done immediately, and we keep you on the line. We click a button. We wait till you get an email from us that says, "Welcome to Helps." And that email confirms you're a member of Helps right then, okay? And it has all our contact information, address, phone number, email addresses, and it gives you instructions how to get us these collectors you owe money to. Text them to them, fax them to us, email them, mail them to us, whatever's easier. And then you're our client literally ongoing for the rest of your life, okay? So if you ever have a question or concern, you can always call us no matter how often, because we don't want our clients to be worried. Why don't we want you to be worried? Because you don't need to be worried, okay? And if you have paperwork or questions about things you get, you're going to call. We're going to go over with you, get us a copy, but we don't want you to worry. So just because you stop paying your debt and we send a cease and desist letter, that doesn't mean that automatically you're going to get sued. You might get sued, but it doesn't matter. Your income is protected. And We'll also explain to you why your other assets are protected. It's not the practice of uh, consumer judgment creditors to go after people's property. They simply don't do that for a number of reasons. So for these reasons, you're going to be okay. We don't want you to worry. And we want you to listen to our YouTube live sessions. What I'll do is I'll answer your questions, and we'll talk about uh, emails or questions that people have risen. Okay. And let's see if we've got any questions to begin with. I won't go to court even if they're trying to serve me. Well, you won't need to go to court. You know, sometimes seniors are under the impression, I get served, I have to go to court. No, if you read the paperwork, it says you only go to court if you're going to contest or fight the lawsuit, and then you file an answer, and you can do that, but you don't need to fight the lawsuit. Okay. Yeah, we do YouTube live 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. We may eventually do it 5 days a week, but that's the way we do it right now. No, they can't garnish any form of Social Security. Your Social Security disability is protected as well, SSI, and as well as your pension and other forms of retirement. Social Security has been protected from its inception, and then pensions are protected under a federal law called ERISA, which stands for Employment Retirement Income Security Act of 1974. Most pensions are protected under ERISA, but if you're worried about it, I can assure you your pension is going to be protected either under ERISA or a state law. Okay, I'm 74, been an attorney for like I said, 46 years. I don't have any recollection of any of our clients ever having their pension being taken from them. Okay, not going to need to worry. And I know I filed between 30 and 40,000 bankruptcies before HELPS was started in 2012. So, busy lady asks, my mom is a senior with a pension and Social Security check. She owns a home and a creditor is placing a lien on the home. Anything we can or should do? Okay, well, I'll talk about that for a second. Okay, so, and thanks for watching out for your mom. Um, so, when someone sues you and gets and you don't do anything, and they eventually get a judgment. Now, if you're sued, it doesn't mean they're going to eventually get a judgment. Now, when that's going to happen, it could be it usually takes a while. It could be in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. It could be even longer than that. Okay. Now, what's a judgment? So that is a apple juice. That is a order signed by a judge saying you owe such and such an amount of money. In most states, a judgment is automatically a lien on real property that you own in the county where the judgment is located. Okay. Now, does that mean that they can take your home? No. Okay, I'll explain. In a lot of states, a judgment, uh, in some states, a judgment is not a lien. For example, in California, there's a paper that you can file usually when you buy a home or sometime thereafter. It's called a homestead exemption, and it automatically protects your home um, up to between $600,000 and $700,000, depending on the county where you live. But every state has what's called a homestead exemption, which is an amount of equity that's protected in your home. And some states protect the entire equity in a home. Texas, for example, Florida, essentially, for example, too. And other states, I think Oklahoma, some of the Midwest states protect everything. So no, they're not gonna. Now, so what about the mom? What about your mom's situation? So if mom owns the home free and clear, um, it, it, um, a judgment lien could be placed that they're not going to foreclose or take your mom's home. If someone else's name was on the title to to the home with your mom. So, for example, if mom had added one of the kids or the children's name as joint owners on the home with rights of survivorship, and then mom was sued and they got a judgment against mom, then if mom passes away or when mom passes away, the property would automatically go to the joint survivors and that judgment lien disappears. See, a judgment is only a lien on property you own in the county where the judgment is located. It doesn't list a specific piece of property like a mortgage does. Okay. So, and you can always talk to us. We go over this with you. Okay. So, talking again, if you're served with a lawsuit, I don't want you to worry about it. If you haven't been served, don't assume that you're going to get, if you haven't been sued, don't assume that you're going to get sued. Okay. You might, obviously, if you have a couple dozen creditors you owe money to and their credit cards, you're likely probably going to get sued by one or more of them. But you're not going to have to go to court. And if you're a helps client, you're going to get us a copy of the lawsuit. We usually don't ask for the entire lawsuit. We don't need it because it's not going to be defended. We just need the first couple pages. We need the court's name and the case number and the attorney's name and address. And then what we do is we send a letter to the attorney who sued you. And that letter is going to tell that attorney that, hey, our client is on Social Security and a pension or whatever. They can't afford to pay you this debt. We understand that they owe the money. We understand that you're going to get a judgment against them. And then we remind them about the protected nature of your bank account. Now, we don't really need to do that because your bank account is protected automatically, but we just do that anyway. So we let the attorney know that your income is protected and that by them filing the lawsuit was really a waste of their time, okay? Occasionally, they'll even dismiss the lawsuit, but don't count on that. It doesn't matter. So they're eventually going to get a judgment, and that's going to be the end of the story. Now, it is possible that they might ask for some additional information after there's a judgment. Kind of depends on the state where you live and the laws. We help with that. We give you information on how to deal with that. But our most important message is if you're worried or scared or concerned, you pick up the phone and you call us, no matter how often. That's the magic thing about helps is we represent our clients, not just one time. It's not, you go to an attorney, you pay him some money and boom, he's done. Okay, no, we represent our clients literally forever, which means that, if you're, a year from now or 2 years from now, you get a new debt, a notice from a new debt collector. Maybe the person you owed money to, the debt collection agency sold it to a new debt collection agency, that debt, and they try to collect from you. They call you or they send you a demand letter. You get that information, it helps. We're going to send out a new cease and desist letter out to that new debt collector, and then they have to leave you alone. Okay? So we don't want you to worry. So Justin asked, I watched your credit union video. Are some banks better than others or proactively at respecting the 2 times the monthly protected amount? If so, which banks are better or worse? That's a good question. And here's the answer. Okay, this law went into effect in 2012. That's the year help started. It was tough for the first couple of years, get the banks on board for a lot of different reasons. There was confusion about the rule, but it was all sorted out. It took a long time for the credit unions to get on board. I learned soon after I started practice that credit unions marched to a different tune than banks did. They weren't always up to par, up to state. They took things a lot more personally. But no, by now credit unions they're all pretty good. They'll have it. But if you ask your local bank manager or credit union manager about this rule, they're not going to know the answer. Or if they give you an answer, it's probably going to be the wrong answer. But thankfully, they're not the ones in charge of garnishments. There's a department in the bank that is in charge of garnishments. So if there is ever a problem with our client, we know what to do because we've been through it over the last what 13 years or however long it's been, 15 years since helps was started. So we know what to do, but it won't happen. So there really is no better or worse. Okay, Justin, no need to worry. But if you're tempted to ask your bank manager about this, don't come back to me and say, well, my bank manager said that. And it's different. They don't know the answer. I've yet talked to a bank manager that did know the right answer. They're not, that's not their department. They don't handle that. I don't understand. It says, Eric, I have to go to a court hearing next month and can't understand why Kaisa was helping me. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why you need to go to court hearing. You may want to call again and talk to us. So April says, help sent cease and desist letters out on March 24th. Okay. My phone is blowing up with calls from 4 creditors, not debt collectors yet. Approximately, how long does it take for calls to stop? Okay. When you enrolled and we sent you we sent you a letter welcoming you to helps, it said that it usually takes between 2 to 4 weeks, maybe even 5 weeks before the calls to stop. Okay. Well, why is that? Okay. So if we sent a letter on March 24th, I don't know what day of the week that went out. The post office letters aren't as fast as you might imagine. Okay. It might take them a week before the letter hits there. Okay. Give them a week. Okay. Uh, then it's going to take them maybe another week to process the letter. Okay. So that's what, 14 days? So March 24th to today is what, 16 days around? So you got to give them some more time. Now, uh, let's talk about it. The Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, the cease and desist letter applies to debt collectors, not original creditors. Now, 7 states have an exception. They have state laws that take the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, which is a federal law, and applies it to original creditors as well. However, it's our experience with helps. We send a letter out to debt collectors, which is like collection agencies, and your original creditor, like your credit card company as well. It's our experience when any of them get that, they're going to stop the phone contact. Now, an original creditor like a credit card company may still send you a bill. And if you don't want to get the bill, our letter when you enroll explains that you can do a change of address to have the bill sent to your name, care of helps. Chuck it in the garbage, whatever. But no, the calls are eventually going to stop. Now, if for some reason it goes on extraordinarily long, then we have a second letter we send. Okay, but they're gonna stop. Okay. Okay. Here we go. So I'll go to some notes here that people have written in about. Person from California calling about my mom. My mother is 81 years old and still works so that she can make payments on her past loans. She cannot continue to work, and she wants me to find a bankruptcy attorney for her. I came across your website and watched the video on YouTube. She draws Social Security also. My parents have a reverse mortgage on their home. However, I'm not sure if my mom's name is on the mortgage, but her concern is that she will lose the house. She needs help. Well, let me answer the question. So we're going to call this person back and we can do a joint call with, we can always, we can always call with a child and a mom or a parent together if you want to. Or if you're a senior and you want to involve one of your kids, we're happy to do that. But what we'd probably tell this lady, you absolutely don't need to file bankruptcy. Like I said, I'd file between 30 and 40,000 bankruptcies. I'd go to a bankruptcy hearing and I'd sit down. If I saw an attorney sitting with someone 80 years old or 70 years old, really, I would shudder and say, why is this person attorney in here with this person? They don't need to be here. Why is that? Well, their income's protected, can't be taken from them. Okay. Um, so apparently she gets a pension and Social Security. Now they have a reverse mortgage. Now, what's a reverse mortgage? Well, that's a type of mortgage where mom had some equity in the home, and she may have owed some money on it. And what happened was she got a mortgage that paid off her existing mortgage, allowed her to stay in the home, so she wouldn't have to make a payment anymore. And if she had enough equity, it may have given her a line of credit she could have access to. So she could own the home, stay in it for the rest of her life if she wanted, or she could sell it too. She still controls the home, but she no longer has a mortgage payment anymore. Okay. Her concern is that she will lose the home. No way on this green earth would she ever lose the home. Um, First off, it's not the practice of consumer judgment creditors, if they sue and get judgments, to ever go after a person's home, even if that person has equity over and above this exemption for the state where they live. California has one of the largest exemptions there is. It's between $600,000 and $700,000 equity in a home. And if she's on a reverse mortgage, she doesn't have anywhere near that equity. Even if she had the home free and clear, worth $1 million, and the exemption was $700,000 in the county where she lived, and she had $300,000 equity that wasn't exempt, no creditor will go after that equity. It wouldn't happen. So no, she wouldn't lose the home. That problem would prevent her from filing a bankruptcy too. But we're happy to go over this with people when they call, so they don't worry. Person writes in, I want to know if Social Security, retirement income, and pension income is protected against student loan debt. Good question. So if you owe a student loan and you can't afford to pay it and you do nothing, the worst that would ever happen is they would offset 15% of Social Security. Okay. They wouldn't file a lawsuit. They don't do that. And they wouldn't take anything out of a pension. They wouldn't take any disability, wouldn't take any VA benefit. They wouldn't take any IRA. They wouldn't take any 401k. But they could offset 15% of Social Security. However, if your income is modest means, maybe $2,500 or less, or even more than that, or $3,500 or less with a couple, or even more than that, you can get on what's called current an income-based repayment plan for your student loan. Now, there's been some changes in the rules lately with the new administration. During COVID, there was a stay on any offsets of Social Security for past due student loans, so people weren't having to pay them. Now they may be ramping it up, trying to collect from seniors on past due student loans. But you can apply for what's called income-based repayment plan. We have emails that explain how that's done. You may choose to do nothing and wait to see if they ever come after your Social Security, which they may never do. Just because of bureaucracy and slowness and things, they may never get around to it. Okay, so no, they're never going to go after your pension. They're not going to garnish your bank account. They have to have a judgment. And they don't sue. They simply go after 15% of your Social Security. Now, theoretically, they could sue, but they don't. So, the nice thing about HELPS is, there's the law, and there's what happens in the real world. So we know what happens in the real world, and that's why we try to educate seniors on what happens in the real world. No sense me trying to scare people into thinking that something bad's going to happen when I know it's not going to happen. Okay. So put your questions in the chat and we'll go over those. Person contacts us from Texas. They say, I'm in need of help. I've been served by the courts because of credit card debt that I couldn't afford to continue to pay. I get Social Security and it's not enough to take care of my needs and pay credit card bills. Well, yeah, we're going to help you. You can turn those credit cards into us. You can stop paying them. You're on Social Security. We're going to explain to you why your income is protected, why it can't be touched. And you can use that Social Security for your food and your medicine and your needs. You don't need to pay this debt anymore. If you got a car payment can't afford, you can stop making the car payment, let it go back. If you get a letter, if they sell it for less than what you owe, which they likely would do, you'll get a notice of deficiency. It will send a letter to the lender to whom you owe this money, who got the letter from, telling them that your income is Social Security and pension protected. They're going to leave you alone. We don't want you to worry. What is your opinion about opening up a bank account in Canada versus keeping money in cash at home? Well, you don't need to open a bank account in Canada. No, that would seem no, absolutely unnecessary. Why do you need to keep cash at home? If you have more than twice the amount, you could keep it cash at home. There's other ways to protect money. You could put it on a preloaded debit card. Um, go to Walmart or go to Walgreens or Safeway or Albertsons or wherever you can buy a preloaded debit card. Give them, or postal money order, or you could get a cashier's check. Okay, no one could garnish that. There's different ways to protect that money. Okay, can offshore accounts be garnished? I really don't think so. No practical way for them to garnish them. I may have missed your question. I do that. I'll see if I can see it here. Yeah, I did. An ambulance company got the cease and desist letter from Helps, but they are still asking me to verify my income. Can they do that? Well, yeah, no, yes and no. I'll explain. If you owe the money to the ambulance company, technically they're an original creditor, right? Okay, they're not a collection agency, so they could still try to communicate with you. Okay, it doesn't mean you have to communicate back with them. We would send them a cease and desist letter. If it was a credit card company, you know, they would stop the communication. They wouldn't they wouldn't continue it. But with an ambulance company, it's probably fairly local. It's smaller, and it's not illegal for them to still try to communicate. You don't have to communicate with them. Um, should you verify your income with them? I mean, you could. Don't have to. Um, Sometimes when people enroll in Helps, one thing we ask them to do is just send them a copy of their Social Security, what they get each year, the month, the one statement. Okay, and the reason we ask that is occasionally a debt collector or creditor is going to ask us, okay, you sent us a cease and desist letter, but we'd like proof that your client's income is only Social Security, or that they get Social Security. So we'd like to have that on hand to be able to send that to them. The reason is I think it makes it less likely they would choose to sue you. Uh, and you might say, well, I thought you said it doesn't matter if they sue us or not. It doesn't. But I always think that it's probably preferable that no one knocks on your door and serves you the legal papers and you forward that to us and have to worry about that when you don't really need to worry about it. So, yeah, we ask you to give us a copy of your proof of income. Once in a while, they'll ask us, well, okay, you sent us a cease and desist letter, Helps, but how do we know that you really represent these people? And so the other thing that we have our clients send to us is it's called a client authorization form, where you sign it, where you authorize us to communicate with your creditors and your debt collectors about your debt. And then if they ask us for proof that we actually represent you, then we send them a copy of that you gave to us. Now, we don't need that to enroll with you or enroll with us. You get that to us later. I missed another one here. I'm going to say, if a home is left to a daughter in a will, if a judgment comes on me since there is a will, do I have to do anything else? She's on Social Security also. Just have her contact help. Okay, so if the property is in your name only and not in your only, and then someone sues you and gets a judgment, and then you pass away and you have a will, then technically, under the terms of the will states that debt has to be paid before your heirs get anything. And not only that, if there's a judgment against you, um, then there's going to be a judgment lien. Okay. Now, if your daughter happened to have her name on the home with you as a joint owner with survivorship rights before the judgment was obtained, then when you pass away, judgment the home would automatically go to the daughter. The judgment would go by the wayside. Do you understand? So sometimes it might make sense to add a child's name to a home, um, or who you want to have the home before there's a judgment, especially if you're going to live in the home forever. Now, that's not always a wise thing to do. It depends on the circumstances. You know, disadvantage for doing that. If you decided to sell the home and you had added some of your kids to the home, then maybe they would have to sign off. They would have to sign off on the home in order for you to sell it. Okay. What if my Social Security amount is $817 a month? Would the school people take out 15%? Well, you would easily be able to get on income-based repayment plan and pay nothing with your income is that low. Okay. If you get what's called SSI, which is a different type of Social Security, then no, it can't be offset. Okay. It's kind of a welfare benefit. It's if you don't have enough, it's not welfare, but if you don't have enough um, credits, if you didn't work enough, then Social Security, the government will send you a small amount, and it's paid under as Social Security, although really it doesn't come from Social Security funds, and that's SSI. Okay, it can't be taken from you. Nope, not 15% above the amount over 750. Do I need a lawyer to put on the home to protect it, or just go to the courts to file that? No, you don't need an attorney. We have a form email that's called protecting a home for, I call it protecting a home for children, that talks about different deeds to protect a home, like how to add a wife to, or a husband to the title to the home, or add your kids to the home. And we send that to our clients and um, that want it. And it's got links to websites where you can download the form. Okay. So you would deed the property to yourself and your children or whoever else you want as joint tenants with survivorship rights. Few states that's not allowed, but most states allow that. And you don't need an attorney to do that. Okay. It helps. We generally represent, we help seniors that have lower income, not, half of seniors have incomes within 200% of the poverty line. Those seniors can't probably afford an attorney. The seniors that have more than that, can go to an elder law attorney or property attorney about an estate planning purposes. But our clients really can't afford it, and they really don't need to. So, we've got a letter where you can do it on your own. Marlena, is there protection for money you receive from a personal injury case? It depends on state law, but almost every state has laws that protect money from a personal injury case. Now, you don't even need to worry about it unless someone sued you and had a judgment. Okay. And if that was the case and you had money from a personal injury case, then you could search for that answer. If you're a helps client, you can talk to us. There's ways you could And if there was ever a potential for a problem, there's places you could put the money to protect it. Okay. So this person, this came from a comment on one of our videos, either for us or for senior living. He says, "My house is in foreclosure. The date is May 9th and today is April 7th." I think they probably mean it's, oh, the foreclosure date is May 9th and today is April 9th. It, if my only income is from Social Security, can my house be sold to satisfy 100,000 second mortgage? Yeah, it could be. Loan taken out long ago and resold to other companies. And I retired and I turned 73 in late July. I have noticed lately that helps has stopped threatening mail and phone calls, but I'm getting a mailbox notices from fellows offering help lately, leading to my house foreclosure. Well, yeah. And I emailed this person back. I don't know if I have my answer here. I can just tell you what it's going to be if I don't. No. So uh, I'll just tell you what I wrote him. I said, you need to see a bankruptcy attorney. Okay. And why? So if it's a second mortgage and maybe you didn't own anything on the first or very little, the second and you were behind on the second mortgage, they could literally foreclose on your home. And if you have equity in your home, it could be a problem for you. Now, if you could consult with a bankruptcy attorney that could file a form of bankruptcy called Chapter 13. That bankruptcy would stop a foreclosure and it would allow you uh, to either catch up on the missed mortgage payment over a period of 3 to 5 years so they wouldn't be able to take your home, or it would give you additional time to sell your home to get the equity out of it. But if you do nothing and there's a foreclosure and you have equity, yeah, you could lose that equity. So it's important for this person to see an attorney that does Chapter 13. Now, maybe it's a home that they owe. Let's say it's a home they owe 100,000, but it's not worth anything, and maybe they've moved out of the home, and then maybe they don't need to worry about it. They don't care if it's foreclosed on. But based on these facts, yeah, they're going to want to see an attorney that does Chapter 13, does bankruptcy. Okay, and we would obviously want you could call us. We give you more information on that. So this person contacted us from Alabama. Previously requested information at the end of last year. I'm in need of help from my brother. His wife left him because of some issues he was having. And she kept all of his income. Looks like for almost a year. And then he charged all of his living expenses to credit cards, which are maxed out. Minimum payments were made on the credit cards through last fall. Since then, they have been amassing interest and penalties. I'm not sure if you can help to relieve him of this debt. Please advise. Well, the answer is absolutely we can relieve him. I mean, we don't file bankruptcy for people, but you get Social Security, you can enroll in helps. We're going to send a letter out to the creditors you owe money to that he's not paying anymore. They're going to leave him alone. He can use his Social Security and any other money he has to help take care of him, to pay for his food and his medicine, housing, utilities, whatever his needs are. So he's not going to need to worry about the old debt. Not going to need to worry about the old debt. So if you have a question, any of this brings up questions, you can always call us on our, call us toll free 855-435-7787. 855 helps us or helps us. We got lots of paralegals that are going to be able to answer your questions. There's never any pressure. The cost to enroll in helps Maybe 1 out of 6 of our clients get our help for free. Those that pay a minimal amount. No one complains about the cost. And yeah, so call us if you have a question. We'll go over this with you. It doesn't mean that you have to enroll when you call. Most clients call us 2, 3, 4 times before they decide to enroll. But some people have watched our videos, lots of them I hear sometimes. And so they know everything that I know, maybe. And so they're ready to enroll when they call. It doesn't matter. Okay. So here's a note from a couple. 83-year-old couple says out of assets, substantial debt. And then they write in trying to hang on, exclamation point, call. Well, sure. Call us and we'll go over this and we'll help you. We can't put more money in your pocket normally. But what we can do is tell you how to protect the money you have for your needs. Okay. Now, where we can put more money in your pocket, we might be able to give you some information if you're a veteran about some veteran benefits that you may know nothing about. We may tell you about Section 8 housing where, you can let get lesser rent. We can help you by, if you've got an RV that you can't afford anymore, you can let it go back, stop the RV payment. Now you got that money that extra money. Okay. So be sure and call. MCAT asks, if we choose to keep 1 or 2 credit cards and make payments, will they maintain the accounts or will they be subject to closure as the other cards will not be paid? I want to keep Citi and Chase accounts. Well, okay. One of the things we ask people when they enroll, do you have a credit card with a small balance or nothing is owed that you still want to keep? Yes or no? And a lot of people are quiet and they'll say yes. And they'll say something like, you can keep a credit card uh, as long as you keep it current on the payments and you don't have another credit card backed by the bank with the credit card with whom that you still want to keep. Okay. So, so you've got a credit card with Citi and Chase. If you don't have another Citi or Chase credit card that you're not paying, then yeah, you can keep the Citi and Chase account. Once in a while, I'll ask, well, how much do you owe on the credit cards? And they'll say, well, I owe 10,000 on this one, and I owe 1,000 on this other one. And I might say, well, you may want to think twice about keeping the one you owe 10,000 on. Is the credit maxed out on it? And they'll say, yeah. And I said, it really doesn't make any sense to keep that one. Well, Eric, that's the bank where I bank. Well, it probably doesn't matter. If you owe money to a credit card where you bank, a bank isn't going to cut off that credit card or cut off your bank account if you stop paying that credit card. They don't do it. Now, if it's a credit union, they will. So if you owe money to a credit union for a credit card or another debt, and you're not going to pay them, then you're going to want to change to go to a different financial institution. Okay. But yeah, you can keep credit cards that you want to keep paying. You bet. It'll help you rebuild credit too. Would that also be an issue if sued for a court? No, no. Banks don't track that down. I've had a few people call me to tell me, well, Eric, they lowered my credit limit. I don't get those calls very rarely. I mean, they can do a soft credit pull or something. There's types of credit pulls they can do, and they might have reason to lower the credit limit on your credit card, but I don't see that happening. But no, if you have a credit card with a smaller balance, you want to keep it, yeah, keep it. It makes sense. It's nice to have a credit card if you need it. Now, if you have a credit card you're going to keep and not pay anymore. Just a minute. You can do that. I got distracted. One of my staff just called me, and they're not supposed to do that when I'm on YouTube Live. So I forgot what I was going to say. Okay, well, let me get back to the screen here about what we're talking about. So this person writes us, okay. How can you get an 18,000 bank loan forgiven or lowered or interest removed? I'm a senior, later 70s, low income, Section 8 housing, living with my daughter. And he has he's anxiety issues and depression. It looks like that's his daughter. He's helping her. It's a little too complicated for me to talk about here on this thing. The person writes in, he says, please define the legal definition of what a senior is. I get that a lot. And part of the problem is the name of HELP. HELP stands for Help Eliminate Legal Problems for Seniors and Disabled. Um, well, 95% of our clients are seniors, but you know, we represent anyone of any age as long as they're getting protected income such as Social Security, disability, VA benefits, pension. It doesn't matter how old you are. We've got clients in their 30s or 40s that are on Social Security disability, okay, which is protected. No one can take it. So yeah, you don't have to be 62. You don't have to be 65. I mean, even if you're still working, making a lot of money, but you're going to retire within a couple months and start getting Social Security, yeah, we can still enroll you in helps. Just call us. We'll go over this stuff with you. Okay. I've been on Social Security disability since 2015. I'm currently 65 years old. I keep getting notices that originally I owe 2,000 in state tax, and now they say I owe 5,000 or threaten to take my house. Only get 1,400 a month, and I can't afford to pay it. What can I do? Okay. Well, I haven't talked to this person, but I kind of doubt they're trying to take your house. Okay. First off, if you owe money to a state tax collector, the state tax collector cannot touch your Social Security, nor can they touch your pension. Okay, they can't. Uh, your your income is protected from a state tax collector, just like it's protected from a credit card creditor. Okay, now a tax can be a lien, but I don't see a state taxing agency trying to foreclose on a person's home. Okay, they would try to collect on it if you either sold the home or when you pass away or at some point then. Okay, they're not gonna they're not gonna take your home. It's not gonna happen. Now they may send you tax notices. They may call you on the phone, but they can't take your Social Security. They can't take your pension. You don't need to worry about the state tax. Now, if you want to pay them, you can. Now, of course, with IRS, they could offset 15% of your Social Security. But then if they were to do that, they would send you a notice, and they wouldn't do that until after 60 days. And that would give you a chance to contact the IRS and get on what's called currently not collectible status, where you wouldn't have to pay the IRS. And yeah, if you have income, if you're a single person with $2,500 or less in income, or $3,500 or less as a couple, even more than that for your single, you can contact the IRS and get on what's currently not collectible status, where you don't have to pay them anything. Now, the lower your income is, the easier it is to get on currently not collectible status. Often you can do that on the phone. Call them on the phone, be on hold for 2 hours, and then have them hang up and call again. Eventually get through, okay? And you get on currently not collectible status. Okay, Synchrony canceled my credit card. I consistently paid on time and paid off balance many times. Used it for veterinary. A zero balance. They canceled it, claiming income to credit ratio. Well, that's unusual, but the other thing I would say is that Synchrony banks a gazillion credit cards, not just one. I would guess Synchrony Bank might have dozens of different credit cards that they back. Maybe Amazon, I don't know. I mean, PayPal, I don't know. A bunch of them. Okay. And so they have a wealth of information in their computer system. And if they see that you canceled any one of these other credit cards or didn't pay it, then they're going to cancel any one that you have. So that wouldn't surprise me. Credit, Synchrony could be one that could do that. Yeah. Now, you got to remember, we have a program called 7 Steps to a 720 Credit Score, where you can rebuild your credit if you want through Helps. If you've been a member of Helps for 90 days, you call us, we'll send you an email. You can enroll in this program. It's free. Okay. You can get your credit back. You can get your credit back within a couple years or sooner. Okay. Now, a lot of clients don't care about getting their credit back, rebuilding their credit, but some of them do. And so we've got this program with Phil Tyrone and his company. I've known Phil for a long. It's legitimate. It works. Okay. So if you're interested in, call Helps. They'll send you an email on 7 Steps to a 720 Credit Score. Well, it's almost been an hour, and this is Thursday, so we won't be talking to you till next week. There's a very good chance I won't be on the YouTube Live on Monday. I could be, but we'll have YouTube Live next week, Monday through Thursday. Okay. Now, if I haven't answered your question, I apologize. I'll try to scroll through here and see if I've missed someone recently. Yeah. If you get sued, it shouldn't affect a credit card that's still good. Okay. Still should be able to be fine. So thanks for your comments. Press the like button. Please subscribe to our channel. Please share what Helps does with others. YouTube is probably the number one way seniors find out about Helps. We talk to seniors all day long, distressed and upset, crying and worried because of debt they owe, not knowing what to do. And so anything you can do to help us share Helps is greatly appreciated. We want to help as many seniors as we can. Someday Helps will be very big because it's too needful. There's too many seniors that need our help. And there's almost a concerted effort to keep the information that we share with seniors away from seniors. So please share what we do with others. God bless, and I will be talking to you next week. Have a great day.